especially Zayd and his brothers in the 1st and 2nd century. Possessed family nobility, dignity, and the best of morals, because they were brought up under Imam Zayn al-Abidin, whose morals, greatness and knowledge need no mention. The best example among them was Zayd, who possessed high qualities and greatness, and who sacrificed his precious life in the path of Allah. Walid bin Yazid bin Abd al-Malik Hisham died after ruling for 19 years and a few months and was succeeded by Walid ibn Yazid. His mother's name was al-Hajjaj. She was the daughter of Muhammad ibn Yusuf Thaqafi and the niece of Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. Historians are unanimous that Walid lived a life of pleasure-seeking, wine, and women. He was the first monarch to order professional singers. He performed extremely indecent acts. 29 One of his verses is translated as follows. The goblet of wine is a fresh spring. I can't live if I don't taste it. Regarding the Syrian singer, Abu Kamil, Walid said, Tell Abu Kamil on my behalf that until he comes to me I shall remain irresolute like a woman whose son is dead. Masudi writes, when Ibn Aisha sang a song for Walid, he was enraptured with joy and remarked, "Oh, commander of my army, you sang very well. I beseech you in the name of Abd Shams, sing it again." Ibn Aisha repeated the song. Walid said, I entreat you in the name of Umayyah, sing it again. Ibn Aisha sang again. Thereupon, Walid stood up from his place and fell on the singer and kissed his entire body. He wanted to kiss his sexual organ also, but Ibn Aisha clamped his thighs. Walid said, By Allah, I shall not let you go until have kissed it. Finally, he kissed his member also, then gave him 1,000 dinars, mounted him on a mule, and said, Ride on the royal carpets. Walid constructed a wine pool in his garden, and when he was intoxicated, he used to jump into it and bathe with the prostitutes. He drank so much that its consequences became apparent when one day he transgressed upon his daughter and said, Whoever is worried about what the people would say, dies of worry. 30. Making the Holy Quran archery target board. Masudi writes that one day Walid opened the Holy Quran and came across this verse. And they asked for judgment, and every insolent opposer was disappointed. 14. 15. Hell is before him, and he shall be given to drink of festering water. 14. 16. Walid shot arrows at the Holy Quran and said, Do you threaten the arrogant and rebellious with torture? I am arrogant and rebellious. When you go before your Lord on the judgment day, tell him, Oh, Lord, Walid tore me to pieces. These were the Umayyad rulers who drank, committed adultery, indulged in sportive hunting, played with monkeys, kissed the private parts of singers, abused the Holy Prophet, Imam Ali, Lady Fatima, Hassan, and Hussein, killed the pious people, pulled down the houses on the heads of their residents, cut off the limbs of people, and exhumed dead bodies and hanged them. Adultery, wine, life of pleasure, music and other indecent affairs did not distract Walid from committing injustice, and he did not change his crooked stand against the descendants of Imam Ali. He ordered that the body of Zayd along with the gallows should be burnt and the ashes be scattered in the air. In the days of Walid, Yahya ibn Zayd revolted in Jazjan, a dependency of Khorasan, against the oppression and persecution to which the people were subjected. The governor of Khorasan, Muslim ibn Awaz, was directed to kill Yahya. An arrow struck Yahya's temple resulting in his death. He was beheaded and his severed head was sent to Walid and his body was hanged in Jazjan. It is mentioned in Maruhuz Zahab that his body was still on the scaffold when Abu Muslim Khorasani revolted. Abu Muslim killed Muslim ibn Awaz, brought down the body of Yahya, offered funeral prayers for him, and buried him there. The people of Khorasan mourned Yahya's death in all the cities for 7 days, and gave the name of Yahya or Zayd to every child born during that year. In present day, his grave is a well-known place of ziyarat visitation. These are historical facts about Bani Umayyah and their policies, ways, and manners as recorded by historians. Services of Kumayt Asadi. As a result of the atrocities of Bani Umayyah against mankind and Islam, many rebellions took place, some of which left very important marks, like the following uprisings. 1. The uprising of Imam Hussein, enjoining good and forbidding evil. 2. The uprising of the penitents Tawaban who rose under the leadership of Sulayman ibn Surd Khuzai to avenge the martyrdom of Imam Husayn, a. 3. The uprising of Mukhtar to avenge the martyrdom of Imam Husayn, a. 4. The uprising of Zayd ibn Ali ibn Husayn. 5. The uprising of Yahya ibn Zayd. 6. The uprising of Abdullah ibn Muawiyah ibn Abdullah. This was the uprising against Bani Umayyah. The descendants of Ali and Fatima laid down their lives to advance justice, freedom, and equality of people. They courted martyrdom one after another so that they might achieve this great object by sacrificing their sacred lives. This bloodshed and uprisings produced a poet who till date has no parallel in the world. He was matchless for his honesty, sincerity, and courage. He defended truth and exposed falsehood. He did not expect wealth, fame, or position in return. The only object of this revolutionary poet was to support the family of the Prophet. He encouraged the people to voice protests at a time when the truth had been strangled to death and people even dreaded to breathe loudly, lest they might be imprisoned without committing an offense. He wanted to destroy the citadels of oppression, erase the traces of oppressors, and release the people from chains and shackles of captivity. This poet was Kumayt ibn Zayd Asadi. Masudi writes, when he completed his composition, he proceeded to Basra and met the renowned poet, Farazdak. He said to him, O Abi Faraz, I am your nephew. Farazdak asked him to introduce Bis' father to him. He did so. Farazdak said, you are right. Now let me know what you want. Kumayt said, I have composed some verses. You possess vast knowledge about the Mudir clan, and you are their poet. I wish that you go through what I have composed and advise me whether I should publish or hide them. Farazdak heard Kumayt's composition, which was replete with love for the Holy Prophet and his noble family, and said, you have composed well and done a very fine job, because you have ignored those of low lineage and paid homage to the family of infallibility, which is a commendable act. You are on the right course and what you have said cannot be refuted. Farazdak said to him twice, make your verses public and disgrace the enemies of Islam. By Allah, you are the greatest of the past and the present poets. Kumayt then returned to Medina and read his verses before Imam Muhammad Baqir, a. When he recited a part of his Qasida Maymaya, the following verse made the holy Imam weep. When the sword was cutting the throat of the pride of Hashemites, Imam Husayn, the unjust people were happily raising slogans of victory. Imam Muhammad al-Baqir said, if I had wealth, I would have rewarded you. However, I pray for you, just as the Prophet prayed for the poet Hassan ibn Thabit. May Allah help you as long as you support and defend us. Kumayt also went to see Abdullah ibn Hassan and recited his verses before him. Abdullah said, O Abu Mustahil, I had purchased a property for 4,000 dinars and this is the sale deed. I call some persons to witness to the transfer of this property to you. Kumayt said, may my parents be your ransom. I compose verses for others for the sake of money and about you for the sake of Allah, and I don't accept money for that which I compose for the sake of Allah. When Abdullah insisted much, Kumayt accepted the sale deed and went away. But he returned after a few days and said, O son of Allah's messenger, may my parents be your ransom. I have a need. Abdullah replied, whatever you ask will be given. Kumayt presented the sale deed of the aforesaid property and said, please accept this. Abdullah picked up the document and accepted it. Abdullah ibn Muawiyah ibn Abdullah ibn Ja'far told the people of Bani Hashim, Kumayt has composed verses in your praise, and during these days when people have ceased praising you, he has endangered his life to expose the tyrannies of Bani Umayyah. You should appreciate his work, encourage him, and help him as much as you can. Abdullah collected money for Kumayt. Even the women donated their ornaments for him. The value of what was collected came to about 100,000 dirhams. When it was presented to Kumayt, he said, I have composed these verses to please Allah and His Prophet, and I am not going to accept money for that. Although Abdullah insisted much, Kumayt did not agree. It was, therefore, returned to all those who had contributed. Kumayt has condemned the evil deeds of Bani Umayyah in his verses. He made it known to the people that Bani Umayyah had been cursed by the Holy Prophet, and that they descended from those set free by the Prophet. In his verses, he stated that Imam Ali, is the medium of salvation in the religion and the worldly life. The well-being in this world is dependent upon obedience to him, and that the success on the day of judgment is meant for those who are his friends in this world and who are attached to his wilayat guardianship. Kumayt performed this feat when Imam Ali was cursed from the pulpits and when it was more dangerous to be labeled a Shia than to be called a kafir. He composed these verses at a time when singing Ali's praise was an unpardonable crime and its punishment was meted out in the form of amputation of limbs, hanging and being buried alive. Kumayt criticized Bani Umayyah and accused them of persecution. He narrated their cruelties which were hated even by the dacoits and the pirates and mentioned their wicked ways and crimes in all gatherings and assemblies. He told Bani Umayyah, "O tyrants! You have become fat sucking our blood. You are leading lives of luxury, whereas we are subjected to indigence and affliction." Indeed, Kumayt attacked class distinctions and instead divided the people into two groups. The first group consists of those who are gluttonous, who live in pleasure, commit crimes, and shed blood. And the other group comprises those who are thrown onto the streets like trash to die a gradual death. It is that very object which is manifested in the poetry of the Shia poets, and their forerunner is Kumayt. Ibn Zayd Asadi. George Jordak says in Al-Qawmiyat al-Arabiya 31, the poetical revolution of the Shia against the despotic rulers, who did not distinguish between man and beast, was initiated by Kumayt. Kumayt says, the Imams are politicians, but their politics is not that they should range the servants of the nation with the shepherds. Their policies are not like the policies of Abd al-Malik, Walid, Sulayman, and Hisham. Regarding Hisham and Bani Marwan, Kumayt said, sitting on the pulpit they talk of goodness and truth, but when they descend from it, they